Diplomacy is not an option, it's definitely going to test your strategy skills, but with the 10 tips that I'm going to share today, you should be able to survive this game even in the hardest difficulty. It's a new medieval strategy game now in early access on Steam. I've also covered the free demo previously on my channel. You can find that video in the video description below. And you basically have to build your economy as well as your defenses like walls, trebuchets, but also troops. To master this game, you must understand that you should be increasing your economy as quickly as possible. Because the quicker your economy grows, meaning how quickly you can produce a lot of wood, a lot of stone, and later on iron, the quicker you can build even more production buildings and therefore have an exponential growth. And especially at the beginning, you really want to focus on your economy and only build the minimum defenses to survive. Because any resources that you spend into your defenses, into your soldiers is basically lost, right? It's something that won't really be useful except to defend. So you want to spend the minimum there and the maximum in the economy so that later on in the game, you basically have so much money, so much resources that you can buy anything you want. I'm Strat Gamer, covering strategy, city building games, simulations with game reviews, guides, tutorials, and let's plays. So don't hesitate to subscribe so you never miss another video and you help support the channel. When you start a new game, you have different difficulty levels, and that will impact a couple of things. That will impact how much resources you have to start with, but almost all of the tips that I'm going to give you now will work for all difficulty levels and will enable you to even survive in the hardest difficulty level. Tip number one is quite simple but extremely important. In this game, like in many other strategy games and RTS, time is of the essence. Or said differently, time is a very precious resource. The good thing is that we are given a tool to manage that, because you can pause the game by pressing space or by clicking on the button here. So definitely right at the start of the game, pause right away. Every time you're not sure about what to do, pause the game. Every time there is a new day and you're going to build new buildings, pause the game. To be honest, I hope that they will introduce a new difficulty level where the pause button is not available, but for now it is. So tip number one, make sure to use the pause button. Tip number two, you start with some wood, 60 in the hardest difficulty, more in the other difficulty levels, and that's definitely going to be the thing that you need the most at the beginning. So the first building that you produce should be lumberjack huts or lumber mills, which you find here in the resource production, lumber mill level 1. On day 1 you should definitely build 2, and I would suggest that you build 2 next to each other. Each map will be different, so I can't tell you exactly the perfect. So each map, when you start, each map is different, so I can't tell you exactly where to put them, but basically you want them to put them not too far from your tunnel, because this is where they will deliver the wood once cut. But at the same time you also want to put them close to a big forest. For example, if I put them over here, there is all of these trees here, which are not a lot. There may be trees over here, but I don't know. Versus here, for example, I know there is definitely a lot of trees. You want to put both of them close to each other, for example, like this, for two reasons. The first reason is that your builders will be more efficient because they will come here, then they will come there, so very short distance. Versus if you put one here and one there, your builders will have to go there, then go all the way over here. The second reason is if you put both of them here, then I can send my soldiers and make sure there's no enemies here. I clear a bit this forest if you wish. Versus again, if I put one here and one there, I need to clear that forest and this forest right away. So that's not great. So recap, tip number 2, make sure you build 2 lumberjack mill right away, close to a big forest next to each other. Tip number 3, there is always a lot of resources on the map and some are undefended and very close, so you need to make sure you get them as quickly as possible. For example, you usually have a wooden cart of 40 wood very close to your town hall, and also usually one with 15 stones that is not too far and undefended. So we're gonna try to find it. Tip number 4 is to use research early, but at the same time be smart about which one. You can find the research tab here or by pressing Z. Quite a nice UI, I have to say. Each of the researches, which you can see here, are unlocked when you get the building. So for example, when we build the first barrack, we'll unlock these two. When we'll upgrade our town hall to level 2, we'll get these ones, etc, etc. As soon as you get the 15 stone, either by finding it on the map or just producing it, I suggest you start with comfortable shoes, which will increase by 10% your movement speed, which will increase the productivity of your people or your productions. For example, your wood will be delivered more quickly, town hall, and the same for all the other resources. At the same time, do be a bit smart about researches. For example, here you have the stained wood, which will improve the durability of all your wooden walls, wooden towers, wooden gates, and watchtowers. 30% durability, it can seem great, but first thing, it costs 140 wood. That is huge at the beginning of the game. Definitely don't spend all of your first wood on this. And second, you may actually don't need that. For example, my tactic is to go as quickly as possible to Town Hall 2 and to build stone walls, which we'll discuss later. If I build stone walls, then I'm never gonna use those. Similarly here, these are researched to upgrade different troops. This one will upgrade, for example, your archers, versus this one will upgrade your swordsmen. If you never use swordsmen and you use only archers, again, don't spend resources on this one, only focus your resources on that one. Tip number 5 is the health of your soldier, which you can see here. For example, this archer right now has 18 out of 20 health. This health goes back up automatically even when you don't have healers in your army. What this means is you actually always want to be fighting. You want to use your soldiers, get their health down, and when their health is a bit low, then you take them back, you make them recharge in a way, and then you attack again. As you can see, for example, now we are back at 8, 19, and now 20. We are now midway through my top 10 tips. So if you feel I have missed anything, don't hesitate to share in the comments below what are your favorite tips or maybe questions that you have about the game. Otherwise, let's dive into tip number 6. As you can see here in this first example, I spent the whole first day without building any new houses. And what happened is I got 5 new villagers to work, bringing my total population to 19. Now in this other new game, we're still on day 1, I built 2 new houses, and you can see that now it says I'm gonna get 9 new population. Now I build 2 more, bringing our totals to 4, and I'm going to get 13 new population. So from only 5 to 13. This is also where you can start to understand this exponential growth. If from day 1 to day 2, I already get 30 new people instead of 5, imagine by day 5 how much quicker I will have developed. So again, tip number 6 is that during day 1, make sure to build as many houses as you can. I would suggest between 2 and 4. Tip number 7 is that at the beginning you do start with quite a bit of fish. For example, in this difficulty level we start with 50 fish, and because we only have 14 people at the beginning, we only consume 13 per day. One thing to realize is that that consumption actually comes at the end of the night. So at the end of the night between day 1, before day 2 starts, you will pay that consumption of 14. It's not during the day that you pay it. During the day you need to increase your stock as much as possible, and then you pay at the beginning of the day, and then you repeat. But anyway, as I said, we have 50 and we're only going to consume 14 on day 1. So on day 1, you actually don't really need to build any food production. Remember that on day 1, you start with 6 people. We've used 4 because we built 2 lumberjack huts. Now you have a small choice during day 1 where you can build either a 3rd lumber mill, or you can start your food production, either through berry pickers or fisherman huts. But again, don't overproduce food too early. For example, here I have 4 berry bushes which are right next door to my town hall. This is definitely very lucky and great. And in that scenario, definitely build 2 of these berry pickers. They will just walk there and go there. But let's imagine we didn't have those berries and the closest berries were these ones. Well, now your berry pickers have to walk from here all the way over there. Also, when they have finished this berry bush, who only has 20 food, then they need to move to that one, then to this one, which is even further. On the other hand, there is a lot more fishes here. And because you know where it is, you can see the exact distance, and that distance will always be the same. Here it seems a bit far, but what you could also do is build a granary just here, and then they won't have to walk far at all. Tip number 8, when you press Alt, you can see the health of all of your units, but also of the enemies. And sometimes you will see a lot of enemies and you will get scared, but don't worry. What you can do is make them run around your archers. You take your swordsmen like this, and you make them run around, and your archers pick them up one by one. If you remember earlier, I said I don't like to build a lot of wooden structures like wooden walls, but they can be very useful at the beginning of the game to survive the first few waves. For example, we are now on day 3, tomorrow we'll get a first wave that will come from the north, here. So what we can do is build just a few walls. It can be a few wooden walls or even just one tower. You can put it like this, for example. That should be fine. Okay, so now we have those few walls and look at what's going to happen. A lot of them, if not all of them, are just going to attack the walls instead of attacking my people. Tip number 10 is, in my opinion, you want to get to Town Hall level 2, meaning upgrading your Town Hall by spending 150 wood and 100 stone as quickly as possible, because at that second level you will be able to unlock most of the buildings that you need. For example, the stone halls, the unlimited food production in the farms, and stronger units like the crossbowmen. To do that as quickly as possible, you obviously need to increase the 2 timber mills that you produce on day 1 are definitely not enough. By day 3, you should have 5, 6, 7 of those lumberjack huts. You will also need 100 stone, meaning you need stone mines, which you place on mountains like this. Usually, they are not that close to your warehouse. So this is also where you may want to build your first storage, really next door to it, so that they don't have to travel far. Again, one of the great reasons, in my opinion, to go to level 2 as quickly as possible is those stone walls. The wooden walls only have a health of 90, versus the stone walls have a health of 300, so that's more than 3 times that. Don't hesitate to share in the comments if you are interested in seeing some of those campaign missions, or maybe a long endless mode. And of course, if you have any question or other tips, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you like this video, don't hesitate to press the like button, and I hope to see you next time.